Let's move on to Phase 3. Captain America Civil War. Once again, the Russo brothers knocked it out of the park. They did an excellent job with Winter Soldier, and they did it again with Civil War. They had a whole bunch of characters at their disposal. I call Captain America Civil War Avengers 2.5 because they had pretty much everybody that you would expect to see in an Avengers film in this movie. Now, the storyline was still focused on Captain America, even though there was a little bit of a side story with Black Panther, but definitely Captain America was the focus in this film. So I can understand why it was called Captain America Civil War. Fun fact, a lot of people think that DC always responds to everything Marvel does. This was one of the few times that Marvel actually responded to something that DC did. A lot of people don't really realize this, but DC announced that they were going to do Batman versus Superman. Captain America Civil War wasn't announced yet. But when they first announced that they were going to do Batman versus Superman, I'm talking about the first time they announced it, they were going to do Captain America, the Serpent Society. I think that's what it was. But then they were like, so they're putting two of their major characters against each other. I think we could do the same thing. Let's just put Captain America and Iron Man, have them have their own teams, have them have their own reasons for doing what they're doing, and have them just clash. And we'll have our own versus film. Find out whose film does better. And we all know how that went. Civil War knocked it out the park. Civil War had me on the edge of my seat. The only thing I didn't like was the villain. Zemo, he was a little bit of a whiny baby to me. He wasn't really a major threat. Anybody could have taken him out. But what Zemo did to cause everybody to go against each other, that was big. Civil War, thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was another surprise hit for me. I saw the trailer, I saw the commercials, and in my mind I'm like, this is a fake Inception on steroids. But that wasn't necessarily a bad thing for me because I love Inception. So to see more of those trippy effects of cities turning over on its side and all this magical stuff, it was like a grown-up, mature version of Harry Potter meets Inception. A little dash of the Matrix with some of the martial arts. Visual effects were top of the line. I loved it. Now, the reason why it wasn't great, in my opinion, is because I see a lot of his personality in Tony Stark. He's pretty much the same guy. He's rich. He's very good at what he does. He's a smart mouth. He's pretty much Tony Stark, but in a different profession. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was very weird for me. It was just weird. I mean, they showed more of, I guess, the backstory of who Star-Lord's dad was. Ego the Living Planet. But I don't know. I don't know if I enjoyed this one as much as the first one. I feel like it was a little bit lazy. Like they took a lot of the same jokes or similar jokes that they had in the first one and just kind of repeated it. I don't know. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was just meh for me. Spider-Man Homecoming. When Marvel Studios gets a hold of the Spider-Man character and they do it the right way. I know Sony still owns it, but Marvel Studios had their hand all up in it. And they did Spider-Man justice. They did Spider-Man the way he was supposed to be done in the first place. I always said, out of all the Spider-Man films, right? Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, but a whack Spider-Man. Then you have Andrew Garfield, who was in the Amazing Spider-Man films. He was an incredible Spider-Man, but a terrible Peter Parker. He was almost too cool to be Peter Parker. Peter Parker didn't skateboard. Peter Parker was a nerd. Had the big hair. I don't know, man. He was too cool for me to be Peter Parker. Then you have Tom Holland. He did Spider-Man justice. He was a perfect balance of smart mouth, smart guy, quirky, funny, a little bit naive because he was a teen. If I could imagine how Spider-Man was in real life, Spider-Man Homecoming showed that. Spider-Man Homecoming is not really necessary to watch if you want to know what's going on with the Infinity Stones and the Infinity situation, Thanos, all that good stuff. But it is enjoyable to watch to understand his relationship with Tony Stark. We got Thor Ragnarok. So, just when I was beginning to lose hope for Thor, because Thor 1 was meh, Thor 2 was ugh. Thor Ragnarok was an extremely pleasant surprise, and I really, really enjoyed it. They finally got it right. There was no more Shakespearean nonsense. Thor didn't take himself too seriously. The director did an excellent job in revamping the Thor character and making people care. Taika Waititi, that was the name of the director. Taika made Thor great again, and I thank you for that. Thor Ragnarok was a direct lead-in into Infinity War. Literally, the way Thor Ragnarok ends, Infinity War is like maybe 2 minutes after the ending of this. The ending of Thor Ragnarok, 5 minutes later. 5 minutes later, the SpongeBob meme, whatever. Boom. You're smack dab in the middle of what happened in Infinity War. In the beginning of Infinity War. When Thanos' ship shows up in front of Thor's ship and wiles the heck out. Yes, it's necessary to watch if you need to understand where Infinity War starts. Black Panther. I don't think I need to go into much detail as to why Black Panther was awesome. Black Panther was awesome. Period. I have nothing bad to say about it. Okay, so the only nitpick I will say about Black Panther is I feel that Black Panther in this film was a little softer than what he was in Civil War. Civil War, Black Panther was a straight savage, murking people, showing no mercy. But I understand that he was like that because he was angry about his father's death. And it's not even just a death. His father was taken from him. His father was killed. So I don't really blame him for being pissed off and trying to go after who he thought was responsible for it. But then I guess he calmed down, he matured. He had some time to cope, and I feel like he had to take his place, his rightful throne as king. And he had to behave like one. He had to behave like a king. He had to behave with logic as opposed to just emotion. So Black Panther was good. Black Panther, I wouldn't say Black Panther is necessary that you have to watch to know what's going on with the Infinity situation, unless you want to understand how amazingly smart Shuri is, Black Panther's younger sister, and her role in trying to help the team with a certain vision situation. Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War was non-stop action. And I'm very, very impressed with the way they were able to balance out story with action and spectacle. It didn't feel like things were just thrown in there just to have it in the film. I think everything in the film, there was a justified reason as to why things were there and why things weren't. You know, Ant-Man wasn't around, but I'll get into that later. Hawkeye lives in the middle of nowhere. I understood that situation completely. But I have nothing bad to say about Infinity War either, except it's like there were certain nitpicks that I had. For example, during the fight when Doctor Strange and Iron Man were fighting, whoever those guys were, Wong cut off the dude's hand. Why couldn't Doctor Strange cut off Thanos' hand with the gauntlet on it? You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here or there. Infinity War did what it had to do. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Once again, like I said, Ant-Man serves as the comedic relief to take you on a fun little joyful ride to escape from the heaviness that is the Infinity War movie. Because the way that ended was just, it was rough. But Ant-Man and the Wasp took you on a fun little ride and they gave you an explanation as to where Ant-Man was all this time, leading up to the snap, because you see that the Pyms disappeared. They got vanished, they got dusted in the snapping, or the decimation they're calling it. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was not a bad film, but it wasn't a great film because I've seen all the other Marvel films, and I've seen lots of things that are in other Marvel films that were in this, in terms of the snarkiness. Tony Stark is already snarky. Star-Lord is already snarky. Doctor Strange is snarky. She was a strong woman. Black Widow is amazing. The Wasp is amazing. The Dora Milaje and Black Panther, they're amazing. So, okay, I've seen strong women. I did like the chemistry between her and Nick Fury. That was cool. I enjoyed that. The only reason why you need to see this is, number one, to find out who the heck Captain Marvel is. And number two, the importance of the pager that Nick Fury was using at the end of Infinity War when he got dusted. You see that she put it together and she gave it to him. So that's that.